Now, hopefully this is working this time. I had one minor attempt there to see if we could get this actually up and running today. Now, let's see if we're just hooking around here to try and find now what's actually going on. Hopefully we are live. Hopefully you people can see us today. See me today. What am I saying, us? There we are. That's us. It's saying we're live. Good. Tremendous. Okay. So what we're doing is we're working on this video. So some of you will be watching this back a little bit later. As always, please do send in your questions and your comments. Hello to the one person who is watching. Good to have you along. Although it's showing that there's not one person. So what we're going to do is begin to add more layers to this. So I started this in the Monday night watercolor class up in Stranmillis, and wanting to progress it a little bit. Now, I thought for 1 second I was using my Daniel Smith set, and it's not the Daniel Smith set, so therefore I'm going to need to take a little bit of time just to orientate myself, as we all tend to do whenever we're using something a little bit different. This is a really, really light wash, just wanting to bring it across. Now I'm going to actually make it that little bit darker with this sort of a phthalo-y. Feels like a more phthalo Payne's grey actually than anything else. And the other thing that I want to do is really darken down some of this foliage. So it's just going to take me a little minute to activate these paints and get them going. But once we get that going, then we'll be trucking. So how are you all this morning? It is an absolutely beautiful morning. Morning, David. It's what, 3 a.m. for you or something? Absolutely crazy. And it is a beautiful morning here in Northern Ireland. We don't often get weather like this. And I am heading to a beautiful forest in Hillsborough to do a YouTube video. So very excited about that. And really hopeful that the drone will give some amazing views. Good morning, Nada from Australia. Whereabouts in Australia are you? Now I'm just trying to mix this darker tone here, so we can begin to get some. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Really want to layer this up. Now this is the type of image that actually, and the goal in the class was to teach layering. So approach to really begin to build the scene up and not be concerned about time or this crazy desire that we always have to have things finished very quickly. And I think with watercolor that is incredibly helpful if you can begin to abandon that need. New South Wales, Armadale, never heard of that. No problem, David. Always nice to see you online for a bit. Have a good day or good rest. Okay, so just bringing these darker tones. Now I'm going to mix in, I don't know the names of this. The good thing about the Daniel Smith palette is that it comes with a ready explanation of what the colors are, which is really, really helpful when you're painting on a live like this. But this is the Winsor Newton. I think it's a Cotman, actually it is. I tried that new technique with the Cotman and it really doesn't work that well. David, many Aussie don't know it either. David, I had to say hi since I saw you on. Yes, bedtime. Goodness, I would have been well asleep by then. It's just lovely having some natural light fly through. Hopefully you all can see well enough. And let me show you the scene again. This is the Mossley Way in Newtownabbey, which is really popular, or it's a beautiful place, and it's really popular for me to go there and paint because it's just so darn lovely. Okay, so mixing in some more of this kind of, I don't know what you would call it. It feels like it does feel somewhat like an Indian red, you know. A little flick in there. The temptation can be that you dot it around, you know, like a kid trying to add spots to a cheetah. You just have to be careful to keep it nice and random and loose so that it doesn't give that kind of sense that you've just dot. Hopefully the weather is good where you are. Maybe it's very dark where you are. I would imagine New South Wales it is. You guys are exiting. Are you coming into autumn now? Is that? I've never been to Australia, but I imagine the climate, well, it's obviously very normal for you, but completely foreign for those of us in this part of the world. Okay, as always, questions, comments, fire them in. Need to really darken this section down here, because this is really the undergrowth at this part. And I've always had this temptation to not want to really notice the areas that are rightly so darker. So just again looking to see, okay, so is this colour anywhere else that I have on? Not a, oh, good morning Julie. Hello from Points Pass. Sunny and bright, isn't it just? Points Pass is a beautiful part of the world. Not a, yes, autumn on its way. Armadale is noticed for autumnal trees. It sounds lovely. Isn't there so much of the world that unless you've been there or somebody talks to you about it, you just haven't a clue. So hopefully already with this, you can begin to see, you know, with just the little additions of, you know, the darker tones and beginning really to build this up, it starts to hopefully come forwards a little bit and have much more depth. So this is a little Southern green brush. One of my favourites, I think it was a couple of pounds. I don't know whether they do them anymore, but I think a couple of years ago now. But a really lovely brush to use. Bonnie, meanwhile, is scratching away here in the background. Alright, Bonnie, do you maybe want to... There we go, just you lie yourself down and relax. Now, I was going to do some more flicks there, but actually, in looking at it, you can overdo the flicks. You do not want to overdo the flicks. Okay, I'm just going to add more of this. I'm using I would assume this is a number, and adding in a phthalo to that, which is going to make a really nice, not umber's quite grainy actually, which is alright. It's good to see you work on. I struggle with contrast and painting in muted tones. Yeah, it definitely takes moments of courage, you know, to be able to go, right, just gonna have to drop this in here. And I find that that's something that, you know, when you get a couple of successes with it and you think, no, I'm happy with that, and then you know that it needs to happen and you just need to persevere forwards. But I hear you, it's sometimes you can feel like at certain stages in the painting you've reached the spot that you're really quite happy, and then you think, oh no, I have to do something else this, or not. I mean, there's no pressure to. The other thing that I want to do is in this, if you can see in this area here, now part of it is going to be abstracted by the little Kodak printer that I have, but not intentionally, but just because of the color space it's printed on. There's like a really rich tone coming up from behind the trees, which is the sunlight, and it's really, really lovely. I'm just trying to, now that green is okay. Let's see where we go with this. Yeah, I think it's all right. Just sort of dancing the brush around. I was going to say I would do a lot of dancing when I'm sketching. It's true though. Forever dancing the brush around. Now this is a place where the drips can work, because it's kind of giving you the pattern that you want. Just mixing it across here. Okay, and on this section here as well, now that's quite close to the path, so I don't want them mixing too much. In effect, in effect, it's a bit like pointillism, because you're presenting all of these different tones on the page, and giving a scene. So the brush very much indicates what the work's going to look like in the end. I'm just continually loading the brush up here, so that it's got lots of these. It's going to leave lots of these sort of resting, like nearly puddles, so that it's not, this is strongish for me paint, but strong-ishly mixed paint. But dogs bringing bugs everywhere. So strong-ishly mixed paint, but then sort of just leaving it to settle. I don't know whether you all have seen the Joanna Gray's technique that I've been really working on, trying to absorb that and enjoy that. And I mean, you make it your own because you're the one doing it, and it's in no way trying to copy her. Actually, it's been lovely just chatting away with her about her different techniques. But what I'm starting to find is that in scenes like this, I'm thinking, oh, what would that be like with that technique, which is really lovely and really refreshing. I encourage you to go and check out her work. So she's on Joanna Gray 75 on Instagram, and at Joanna Gray Art on YouTube. And her and I are going to be doing a live, which will be really, really good. Really looking forward to that. So I'm going to be following her as she paints, which should be really, really nice. Now, the one thing with this is I don't want to get to the place where it is so completely full that it looks like, oh, Colin, you should have stopped a little bit earlier on. So let me move now down to the pathway. Let's get it a little bit darker down there. Okay, questions, comments, keep them coming. Let me know what you're up to today. Always nice to hear what's going on for everybody else, rather than just me prattling on the entire time. And I am also, what's happened as well is with being exposed to Mr. Toby Sketchless so many times now, and also Joanna's technique, there's much more enjoyment for me in terms of using some wet on wet as well. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to mute, I'm going to dry, and then I'll be back to add in the next layer. Okay, and we're back. Now, while I was off there, while I was muted, Julie said, hang to drummer for breakfast, laugh out loud. See, Toby's heading to Belfast to do a workshop in October. Yes, he and I are doing a workshop in October. It's filling up fast, which is really encouraging. And we're going to have, our base is going to be the Mac in Belfast, Julie. So, a really, really nice venue. And what we do, don't know whether you know about our styles, but our styles are really quite different. But we very much of the same philosophy and ethos. So we'll be sort of comparing and contrasting our styles as well. Other thing to say is I've opened up channel membership, and primarily it's a means of support. So we're going to be starting to do some videos that are for members only as well. So if that's something you would consider, then that's for anybody, then that would be amazing. Okay, so let's move on here. I've also got another workshop next week in sunny Ballinhinch, so that should be good fun. That's actually your neck of the woods there, Julie. So there's a flip have turned into a major salesman. There are spaces available. There's a couple of spaces left, so they're always good fun. So just got some of this cadmium yellow here, and I am just going to add just some little areas where I want it to begin to shine through, that there is, a light source underneath, and let me get that a little bit richer just behind this little bit here. Yes, so it's in the workshop in Ballinhinch next Saturday from 10 until 1 p.m. So if you are interested, send me a DM on Insta or send me an email. And I will get you booked on if you're wanting to do that. Okay, so much of watercolor is this patient and slow approach, and I think that that's not often, because so much of the techniques that are used are wet on wet. And I think that's probably for me been why wet on wet has frustrated me for so long, because it feels like that is often the only technique that's offered. If you're going to do watercolor's about wet on wet, and therefore that's really all you've got. Whereas I absolutely love this way of working, which is lovely and slow and taking your time. And there's a girl in the class, and she did a test to see, does using a hairdryer actually dull the pigment, and she said she did a test and it doesn't. So I think that she said that from her observation, what it is that whenever it dries, the pigment does kind of dull anyway, but because it's happening faster in front of your eyes, then that's the assumption, is that, oh goodness, and doing it this way that's what it does. Okay, so this part here is by far the darkest bit. Now this is also an abstracted landscape because it's a human making it, and I hear you about photorealist painters and hyperrealism and all, but it still is an abstraction of reality. And I suppose I find that the painters that are doing the hyperrealist stuff, I mean, I is that much more about showing skill, which I think there's obviously there's a huge amount of skill involved in being able to paint in that way. But for myself, I just love things that are really abstract and semi-abstract, I think, with the wonderful medium of watercolor. Okay, as always, keep your questions, comments coming, peeps. Now the other thing that I can do is take a much thinner brush, different stages, and just add in nice little bit of details. Now those details can be really, really beneficial because they just, pull your eye in the right place at the right time, kind of thing. Okay, so I think we're getting to where I want to take this. Now what I will do is add in some more of the cadmium yellow, just to lift this right up and give us a nice bright colour for some of this, the grassy area on this right hand side. I also want to take more of the orangey kind of colour. Hello, Colorsmith. Thanks, Nada. Super kind. It's got, I think, because I'm leaving lots of. It was somebody pointed this out to me. I tend to leave lots of white bits throughout the painting, and what that so somebody suggested that what that does is leaves light. It feels like there's light in the work, and light for me is probably the most important thing. So when they said that, I was utterly thrilled and delighted with such comments. Okay, just gonna move. Right, so what I want to do now is take loads of whatever that tone is. I'm not even sure what that tone is. Take loads of it. And I'm gonna just introduce it in some small areas here. On a Friday, I don't work in the school as a technician on a Friday, and it is by far my favorite day because I get to do the thing that I really, really love, which is just painting. And even within painting, I love doing like lives and being able to answer questions, and hopefully in some small way how I'm doing things is helpful for others. So this is me living my best life right here. Blessed indeed. Okay, so let's bring this down again. Oh, that's a nice tone. Sometimes I feel like you come across different tones that you mix. Going to put in some of this quinacridone, which is completely nuts and electric. But what we'll do then is bring in some of this other one here, which is also completely nuts. But what I want to do is just drop it in just a couple of places to give in those hunts. Oh, you're welcome, Nada. Thanks for joining. Have I ever seen? I don't think you've seen you on before, Nada, or maybe you have been. Forgive me if we've chatted before and I haven't remembered. Just trying to dull this down a little bit. 2 times? Nada, very helpful, much appreciated. Cause Nada Robotnik, you're right. 2 times. First time. Thanks, Color-Smith. Okay, so what I want to do now is, there's just a wee section down here. Just want to add in a little bit of the bottom right. Here, just that little bit more of that grey that's coming across just through the path. So I keep the pen or pencil or brush dancing around really effectively to try and keep the kind of looseness to the work. Okay, so I'm going to mute for another minute, get this dry, and then I'm going to go in with a little bit of fiddly detail. Okay, that's me back. Now we're going to take the little liner brush and we're going to go for a really, really, really rich brown here. So I'm going to take the standard brown. I'm going to add in the ivory black. I think I bring it way down, and actually some Payne's grey would be better to sort of cool it down a little bit. Okay, now, so what I'm going to do is effectively, let's see where we can go with this. So just adding in little bits of detail now. That's really going to be colouring in here. Along the line of this tree. Now, this should be really interesting. Colorsmith at work again. Happy. I've seen the notification. Oh, thank you. So just effectively colouring in here at this point. Now this could be quite dramatic how this really changes the painting. Now I want to lift some of that. Just drop it in. Be able to lift and drop. And that's the thing another thing I love about watercolor is you create a channel and effectively drop it down it, and you know there it just stays in that boundary that we've given it, which is really cool. So effectively getting the detail in these branches here, and this should be a real game changer to the piece as well, because all of a sudden it's gonna give you much more noticeable structure. Now that went over that line a little bit. So what we can do, take our little sponge, get it all loosened up here, and just then drag that across. There we go. So across these lines here. Now here's the other thing. We've got lots of branches that are this is the point where it's very relaxing, because you're really effectively just colouring in lines you've already created, you know. This wouldn't be something that I would normally do with the painting, but again, here's what happens when you let yourself be influenced is, you know, I would have done this a lot whenever I painted years and years ago, but now I've really stayed away from adding in such meticulous detail. But it's actually lovely. It's really, really nice to do, and I'm glad to be doing it here. And that's the influence of Joanna Gray, because of the brush that she uses. So it's fascinating to me that as you just let yourself be, you know, influenced and look at other artists, then you begin to become more yourself, you know, instead of that being a really, oh my goodness, I'm copying someone. I think we need to get away from that concern that we are copying someone, we're being influenced by. You take some of these techniques that I'm using, how dare I say I'm copying you? You're taking on board influence to be more yourself, and as a painter, you know, it's a lovely, lovely thing and a huge compliment. So just adding in a little bit of some of these details here, and again, it should really just cause a little bit of a punch to occur in some of the areas, you know. Notice there's a comment there. Nada said those verticals just oppose nicely the dancing marks. Yeah, and also give a bit more structure, don't they? And I mean, we're not going to do lots of this, but just a couple of marks, the difference that it can make is pretty profound. And also up, you know, this section here, which is so much darker. I haven't quite achieved that, but what I will sort of am hoping to do with just making some kind of dancing marks here is just indicating. Okay, so this is another really, really dark area. Okay, and I think that that's us really. What I might do is just use the stampers. Well, no, actually, I don't think I will use the stampers on the bottom. Now, let me just do one more little thing. I want to take this. My favorite color in this whole painting has been this autumnal kind of electric red. I'm going to bring it down ever so slightly with the brown. Probably more number would be better. Just to bring, well, I'm going to umber or the black. The black will do that. Just dumbing it down ever so slightly. But just making a couple of marks of this that are just a little bit darker, and actually particularly in here. And again, it's the dancing marks again, you know, the kind of moving the brush around in this erratic, almost kind of shaky way that I find really, really effective. Because trees, you know, they have, of course, good structure, but life is, you know, messier than just this uniform, these kind of shapes. And therefore, let me just do the example. If I dot, like I said earlier, like a child drawing the spots on a cheetah, then it communicates, oh, right, this isn't actually real, because we know what real is when we see it. Or something that is, like, has a semblance of reality. Okay, there we go. So there we go. I think that's us now. Let me just lift this up so that you can see more closely. I'll go from the bottom to the top. There's a gorgeous sunlight on it. So hopefully you can see some of the details. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all those things. Hit the little bell icon and you'll get notified. Have a lovely rest of your day, no matter what part of the world you're in. I'm going to do a little bit of life admin now, and then I'm going to head off and get myself to Hillsborough Forest and play about with some Caran d'Ache nail colour too today, actually. Ooh, he says. So anyway, thank you. Have a great day, and bye for now.